Good morning, everyone. I continue to talk on this text, opening the hand of thought. Last month, I talked on two paragraphs on page 135, and that these paragraphs were at the end of the Uchiyama Rōshi's discussion about nurturing mind or parental mind. So next he is going to talk about joyful mind. You know, those called three mind or sanshin. That is Dai Shin, Ro Shin, and Kishin. Dai literally means big or large, or we translate this as a magnanimous mind. And the second is Ro Shin. Ro is old or matured. And we translate this as a nurturing mind. And kishin is joy or joyful mind. Those are called three mind. And Dogen Zenji introduced these three mind in Tenzo Kyokun, or the instruction for the cook. And because this book is mainly about Zazen practice, so in this paragraph, he mentioned kishin or joyful mind, but he didn't say much about what joyful mind is. So today I'd like to talk on this book. This is, in this version, it said, From the Zen Kitchen to Enlightenment, or Refining Your Life. This is Uchiyama Rōshi's commentary on Tenzo Kyokun, or the instruction for the cook. And next time I return to this text. If you have this book and want to check, this is chapter 13. And the title of this chapter is The Function of a Settled Life. The Function of a Settled Life. This chapter is not so long, only 5 pages. And in the beginning of this chapter, Uchiyama Rōshi summarized what are those three minds. And in the context of Buddhist teachings, basically what he said is in the foundation of our practice in Dogen Zenji's tradition is just sitting or Zazen practice. And this practice is based on Buddha's teaching of, for example, the foundation of the self is only the self. So we settle down on this self. So what the self is important point, and what is the settle down in the self is also important. And he said, our Zazen practice is settling in this self. And this self, as I always said, has three perspectives. One is self as one, as individual person, and another is this individual person as one is only a collection of 5 skandhas. There's no fixed independent entity called me or Shohaku or this self. So in this case, this self is zero or no self, or self is empty. And when we are, this is net, Indra's net, and we are within the interconnectedness with all beings, and this self looks like one as independent person, but as I said, it is empty. There's no such independent entity that is zero. And when we see no self, we see, this is a collection of all different things coming and going, like air goes into my body and come out, and water is the same, and food is the same, and knowledge or understanding or thinking is also coming and going. So we see, when we see no self, we see interconnectedness with entirety of this network of interdependent origination. I call this infinite self or infinity self. And our Zazen is settled down on this self, which has 3 aspects. One is as an individual person, as a karmic self, and yet that is basically empty, so there's no self. And yet we see this interconnectedness. Everything support this self. Not only air, water, food, but also other people support us. That's why I can exist as an individual beings. And I think in my unique way, and I think this is most important. But when we sit on this foundation or network, we let go of our self-centered idea or thinking, then we become transparent, and we start to see this entire network is the self. So there are 3 perspectives of this self, and settle down on this entire network of interdependent origination is magnanimous mind, by letting go of our egocentricity. And when we see this in our daily lives outside of Zendo, when we stand up from sitting, we try to, because we are supported by all other beings, we try to support other beings. This attitude is parental or nurturing mind or matured mind. And by taking care of other beings to keep this network in a healthy condition, then that activity is from nurturing mind. And by helping others, no matter how small our action can be, we can find a joy. That is a basic meaning of 3 mind or Sanshin, and that is the name of our community, Sanshin Zen community or Sanshinji. So I made the name of this community based on these 3 mind or 3 attitude. So this means we practice Zazen and awake to this reality of the self, and we take bodhisattva vows and even though we vow to live with a magnanimous mind, still we are, as an individual, we are a very tiny part of it, and we are still selfish. So we need to repentance. So that is two sides of our practice, taking bodhisattva vow and practice repentance. And to do so, we keep these three minds: magnanimous mind, nurturing mind, and joyful mind. That is basically what Uchiyama Rōshi said in the beginning of this section as a summary of three mind. Then he he quote entirety of Dogen Zenji's description about what is joyful mind. So let me read Dogen's what Dogen says in Tenzo Kyokun about the kishin, or joyful mind. This is quite long, but not so difficult. So just let me read this. Let me read my translation of the Tenzo Kyokun in this book, Dogen's Pure Standards for the Zen Community, because this translation is familiar to me than the translation in this book, Refining Your Life. Dogen then says, on all occasions, when the temple administrators, heads of monastic department, those are the people, monastic officials who take care of various aspects of monastic practice, and the Tenzo is one of those officials, are engaged in their work. They should maintain joyful mind, nurturing mind, and magnanimous mind. So not only the Tenzo, but all people practicing in the monastery need to maintain those three minds. And he used this example of Tenzo as many other functions or all other practitioners or community members. And he started to talk what is kishin, or joyful mind. So Dogen says, what I call joyful mind is the happy heart. You must reflect that if you are born in heaven, you would cling to ceaseless bliss and not give rise to way-seeking mind, or bodhicitta. This would not be conducive to practice. What's more, how could you prepare food to offer to the three jewels? So he said, if we are born in the heavenly realms, in the best part of this 6 realms of samsara, then because we have no difficulties, we have bliss or happiness or joy, so too joyful, so we don't no problem, so we don't have a chance to arouse bodhicitta. So if we are born in the heaven, we cannot prepare meals for the three treasures. So what's more, how could you prepare food to offer to the three jewels? Three jewels is Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Buddha is our teacher, and the Dharma is the, Dogen said, Dharma is our medicine to heal from the problems caused by three poisonous mind. So Dharma is a medicine, and the Sangha members or co-practitioners are the good friends. So those three are most important or precious thing. He said, among the 10,000 dharmas, the most honored are the three jewels. Most excellent are the three jewels. Neither the Lord of Heaven or wheel-turning king can compare to them. Those Lord of Heaven or wheel-turning king are the people who have the most power within samsara, in the highest ranking within samsara. But he said the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, is much more precious than those kings. The Zennen Shingi, this is a monastic standard, says, respected by society, though peacefully apart, the Sangha is most pure and unfabricated. Now I have the fortune to be born a human being, not in the heavenly realms, but in the realm of heavenly beings, and prepare food to be received by the three jewels. Because we are born in this human realms, we can allow the bodhicitta and become a Buddha's student and become a member of a Sangha, and we can serve as a tenzo in this case to prepare meals for the three treasures. He said, now I have the fortune to be born a human beings and prepare food to be received by the three jewels. Is this not a great karmic affinity? This is really a wonderful affinity. We must be very happy about this. So this is a joyful mind. This is the source of joyful mind. We can enjoy, and we have happy to be born and become Sangha members and serve as a tenzo to prepare meals for three treasures that is most precious. And Dogen then continues, moreover, consider that if you are born in the realms of hell, hungry ghosts, animals, fighting gods, or others, of the 8 difficult verses, even if you desired refuge within the Sangha's power, you would never actually be able to prepare pure food to offer the three treasures. So he mentioned about other 4 realms of samsara in which we have many difficulties. And Dogen said, because of so much difficulties or problems, we cannot allow bodhicitta. So we don't have a chance to prepare meals for the three treasures. So he said, this is the most precious circumstance within the 6 realms of samsara. Because of suffering in these painful circumstances, your body and mind would be fettered. However, in the present life, you have already done this cooking, so you should enjoy this life and this body being born in human realms and become Buddha's student and serve for the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. This life and this body, resulting from incalculable ages of all the activities, this merit can never fade. You should engage in and carry out this work with the vow to include 1,000 or 10,000 lives in one day or one time. One time means at this moment, here and now, we serve three treasures, and we take a vow to, within this one practice, at this one moment, we include all the beginningless past and endless future, because what we do now brings the result in the future. So to practice at this moment wholeheartedly is really important and precious. The mind that has fully contemplated such fortune is joyful mind. So this is Dogen Zenji's definition of what kishin or joyful mind is. The mind that has fully contemplated such fortune is joyful mind. Truly, even if you become a virtuous wheel-turning king, the most powerful person in the samsara, but do not make food to offer the three treasures. After all, there is no benefit. It would only be like a splash of water. It would only be like a splash of water, a bubble, or a flickering flame that is sooner or later, or soon, more like soon, they disappeared. So working as a tenzo is very important and precious, and we should have joy, and we should have a joyful mind. And after quoting this Dogen Denji's saying about what is joyful mind, Okumura Rōshi wrote his own experience about joyful mind. That is, when he became a Buddhist monk, being ordained by Sawaki Rōshi when he was 30 years old, and he studied this teaching of Dogen Zenji. And he said he was very moved and he wanted to practice as a tenzo, but he said he couldn't because he was not a handy person. That means he was from a rich family, so until he became a monk, probably he never cooked anything by himself. He said he never washed even his handkerchiefs because he had a housemaid in his family. So even though he wished to practice as tenzo, but he couldn't really until he settled down, started to live at Antaiji. That was about 8 years after he was ordained. He settled down at Antaiji in 1949. And he started to serve practice as Tenzo. And he said he practiced as a Tenzo until Sawaki Roshi passed away. That is 1965. So he said from 1949 to 65, for 16 years at Antaiji, he practiced as a Tenzo. And he said, Tenzo practice at Antaiji was not easy because Antaiji is a really tiny community. Actually, first about 7 years, Uchiyama Roshi and his elder Dharma brother named Sodo Yokoyama Roshi, we called Sodo-san, they lived together. Only 2 people lived together during basically, and only once a month, Sawaki Roshi returned to do 5-day session. And while Sawaki Roshi was there, people from outside came to join the session. So basically, Uchiyama Roshi and Sodo-san lived together. Only 2 people lived together. So Tenzo, cooking is not only work Tenzo should do. He had to, all other work. If he lived in a big monastery, there are many other temple officers such as Tenzo and work leaders and other functions. But he had to, to do cooking, he had to take care of all other aspects of practice life, such as in order to cook, he has to grow vegetables. And also at Antaiji, we cooked with firewood. Uchiyama Roshi didn't use electricity or gas for cooking. So that means he needs to prepare firewood. That means he cut the wood and split and dried to make firewood. And also he had to do all other necessary work to keep the temple building in a good shape. So it was really hard work. But he said he could do this because of Dogen Zenji's writing about a joyful mind. He said, I had to do all the sawing, cutting the wood, and wood splitting, in addition to the farming and pickling to make a pickles. He had to do by himself, all by myself. Yet, thanks to the strength that I gained from this passage on joyful mind. So he gained the strength to work with a joyful mind because of Dogen Zenji's description of how precious the Tendo's work can be. And he said, I was able to throw myself into the work, even though I was already well into my 40s. So when he was ordained, he was about 30 years old. So when he started serve as cook at Antaiji. He was already in his 40s, so he was not too young to do such a hard work. But he said he could do that because of this joyful mind based on Dogen Zenji's teaching. I shall always be grateful for this. So he said, this is really important and great, and he is always grateful for this teaching of Dogen Zenji about a joyful mind. But he says, to understand the true meaning of this teaching of Dogen Zenji is not so easy. When we carelessly read what Dogen Zenji wrote about this joyful mind or preciousness of Tendo's work to serve three treasures, it seems there are, two ways of life. One is samsara, and this is Buddha way. This is practice based on Buddha's teaching, and in this way, this practice life, we serve the three treasures, that is Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And basically, what Dogen Zenji is saying, to live in samsara is not important, and to live nirvana, to live practice in the Sangha serving three treasures is most precious. So to work as a Tenzo is really important and precious. Therefore, we should have joy instead of transmigrating within samsara. If we read what Dogen Zenji said about joyful mind carelessly, we think in this way there are kind of a duality, life in samsara and life in Buddha's way or monastic life, and this is better way of life. Therefore, working as a Tenzo is also precious. Therefore, we should be joyful. But he said that is not, he means Uchimura Rōshi. Think that is not what Dogen Zenji is saying. But what he's saying is these are not two separate places or separate realms or separate world. But these six realms of samsara is created by our mind, by our attitude. And to practice following Bodhisattva vow and serving three treasures is also our attitude, based on our mind. So this is not two separate realms of the world or two separate groups of people, but both are about our attitude toward our life. So after he wrote about his experience as a Tenzo, he said, if you want to read this book later, this appeared in page 90. He said, it seems to me that to really understand Dogen Zenji's remarks of joyful mind, we have to begin by asking ourselves in just what direction our lives are heading, what direction our lives are heading, what are we trying to do with our lives, and what should we really be doing. So we should ask these questions, what we are heading, and what are we trying to do with our lives, means within this lifetime, what we are doing. That means what is the meaning or purpose of this life, and what should we really be doing here and now. And he said, spending our lives chasing after money, fame, or the growth and success of our children, goals that disappear quickly, like a foam on water, or the wind blow flame, or of a candle. That is a meaningless life. That means our life within samsara is, as he wrote in opening the hand of thought, we chase after something we want, such as money, fame, social status, and so on. And we think we are not so good, or we are not in the best condition. So there is dissatisfaction, or we don't like who we are. And we think if we gain those things, or if we achieve such a goal, then we become happier and we become more satisfied. So within samsara, our energy to make effort, to work hard, to gain those those desirable things, or achieve something we wish to be, the basic energy or motivation is dissatisfaction. And from this dissatisfaction, I cannot be satisfied where we are, where I am, or where I who we are, and start to work hard to attain, to reach such a goals. By doing practice or making effort in this way, we have greed to those things we want to gain, or we have anger or hatred or dislikeness about we who cannot reach there yet. So our making effort is based on dissatisfaction, greed, or anger, hatred, or dislikeness. And also those goals are the goals for many other people. Our life become a competition with others, and all other people are competitors. And even when we reach that goal, we accomplish that goal. When we reach there, we have another goal. We cannot satisfy what we accomplished. And we have more higher goals. And this continues. And often we cannot accomplish, we cannot reach the goal. So we are always dissatisfied. And even if we are successful, we feel like our heavenly beings, but sooner or later that good thing will be lost or disappeared or taken by other people. So there's no foundation of peace of mind within this way of life. If we have this mental attitude, because I am not happy or I don't like who I am, therefore we have to work hard to reach somewhere. Then the goal is always outside of ourselves. That is how we live within samsara. And even when we allow the bodhicitta and become Buddha children, our life in the society doesn't disappear. And yet we can study, we can learn how to live the same kind of life as a bodhisattva. So our attitude changes, but the condition where we are living is not different. So this transformation is important, and this is done by arousing bodhicitta and taking bodhisattva vow and take a bodhisattva precept. Let me read what he is saying about other way of living. He said, what should we be doing with our lives? Sawaki Rōshi always said that we need to learn what it means to emerge from a life which is confused, incomplete, and carelessly haphazard, a life based on compromise, on always fooling ourselves and others about who we are, about how we live. We need to learn what it means to settle naturally into our lives. When we live with this attitude, we are always chasing after something and we cannot be satisfied. We are always have some kind of negative feeling about who we are and where we are. Then he said, we spend too much of our time living only by force of habit, or by trying to escape from boredom, because we feel bored. We try to kill our time and to do something. So escape from boredom, or by throwing our energies in some fanatical direction, completely opposite from living in as fundamental a way as possible. Now, more than in any age before, he wrote this in around 1970, so about 50 years ago. He said, at that time in Japan, Japanese society became getting richer, and Japanese people earn much money. So they felt their life is getting better. But Uchimura said, now more than any age before, though we cannot spend all our time pondering every little things, we do need to take time out to reflect seriously on the significance of settling our lives, because there are so many kind of desirable things we wish to gain. So he said, this expression of Sawaki Roshi's on settling our lives is his way of explaining a passage found in the chapter entitled Kie Buppo So, that means taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. In that fascicle of Shobo Genzo, Dogen says, why should we have faith or take refuge in the three treasures? And Dogen said, we take refuge in three treasures because the three treasures are one's final refuge. This final refuge is a translation of Hikkyo Kisho. Hikkyo Kisho. He said, we take refuge in three treasures because three treasures are Hikkyo Kisho for us. Hikkyo means finally or ultimately, and ki is return, and sho is place. So he said, three treasures, Dogen Zenji said, three treasures are the place we finally return. So taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, those three are not something outside of ourselves, and we venerate or worship to those three things. But three treasures are the place we finally or ultimately return. That means this, as I always said, this entire network of interdependent origination, that is where we are from, where we are born, and where we live, and where we die. So we never get out of this network of interdependence. And this entire network is Buddha's Dharma body. Actually, this is Buddha. And the way things are, that is interconnectedness, is Dharma. And all beings within this network are Sangha. So Buddha taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is taking refuge in this entirety of network of interdependent origination, in where we are born, we live, and we die. And yet, while we are living, we think this is individual person, and to make this individual person better than others, have more power or authority or wealth, is most important, comparing with others. That attitude makes our life into samsara. But when we awake to the reality that we are living together with all beings, that is what we take refuge in three treasures means. So taking refuge in three treasures or serve three treasures is not we serve three treasures outside of ourselves, but this is to serve three treasures means to settle down, to awake and settle down where we are born, where we live, and where we return when we die. That is what Hikkyo Kisho means. So, Uchimura Rōshi continued, in other words, we have faith in Buddhism and by Buddhism. I mean the Trinity of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, since it shows us the way of an ultimately settled life. This is how we settle within ourselves and living together with other beings as the self, as the infinity. That is what magnanimous mind means, to awake to that we are living together with all beings. And nurturing or parental mind means we try to take care of others instead of request others to take care of me. When we are childish, we always ask other people to take care of me. Otherwise, we cry or we complain. But as a matured person, as a bodhisattva, we can find the joy in taking care of others. So when Uchimura Rōshi is asking what direction our lives are heading, that is, as a bodhisattva, if we have already received bodhisattva precept, we are bodhisattvas, and we take bodhisattva vows, and after each and every Dharma talk, we chant those 4 bodhisattva vows, and this is the direction we are heading. That is, being are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. And the Buddha's way is unsurpassable, I vow to realize it. These are the vows. And Uchimura said, vow is direction we are heading. But these 4 points is not the goal we want to reach or we achieve or we want to gain, because those are really endless vows. There's no time we can accomplish all those 4 things. That is why in the first half of these 4 vows, it said beings are numberless, and delusions are inexhaustible. Dharma gates are boundless. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. That means we cannot reach there, and that's fine. But in each moment, we take a step toward that right direction, and each moment we live together with all other beings. So we open our body and mind and try to do something beneficial to other beings, whether within the human society or in the nature. No matter how small our activity can be, but try not to helpful or beneficial to others, to not only for others, but within this network, this me, are already included. So this is also good for me. So beneficial, we try to do beneficial thing to entire network, including self and others. And if we can do even tiny things, our capability is limited. So what we can do cannot be, might not be so big thing. But if we try to do something beneficial for others, for ourselves and others both, then we can find a joy. And we can find, see there's no self and everything is interconnected. And within this action at this moment, actually those three treasures are there, already manifested within our activity, within our practice. That is what Dogen Zenji said, practice and realization, or practice and verification are one. When we practice selflessly or egolessly, being free from ego, the three treasures are manifested right there. So even though we cannot reach the Buddhahood as a person, as an individual, still we, in our activity, in our work or practice, for the sake of three treasures, the virtue of three treasures are manifested in each moment. So this is different from our usual way when we want to reach goals, to attain certain things or achieve certain things. Unless we reach that goal, our activity is meaningless. And we call this is failure until we reach that goal. So if we cannot attain that goal, our practice or our hard work is not meaningful. And we call it that is a failure. But when we live within this attitude, no matter how small we can accomplish, there's no failure. To me, this is really interesting and important. For example, in Shobo Genzo Zuimonki, Dogen Zenji gave an informal Dharma talk to his Sangha. And at that time, Dogen Zenji and his Sangha are making effort to build a monk's hall and Dharma hall. It is said at Koshoji, the Buddha hall was already there, but in order to establish monastic practice, he wanted to build a monk's hall where monks live and practice together, and a Dharma hall to give formal Dharma discourses. So he was working for fundraising. The fundraising appeal written by Dogen is still existing, and we can read. So he and his Sangha are working to accomplish that goal. But Dogen then said, I don't care if I cannot reach that goal, even if I cannot accomplish what we wish. But what he is doing, what I'm doing now is enough. That is complete practice at this moment. If the condition or situation within interconnectedness works well, then we can establish the monk's hall and Buddha hall, Dharma hall. But if it's not possible, then I'm okay. That is what Dogen said while he was working for fundraising. When I read that talk in the Monkey, I found that wonderful, because there's no failure. Our wholehearted practice at this moment in the direction of Bodhisattva vows. In each action, in each moment, each time is complete. So even if we cannot reach the goal, it's not a failure. So that is a two different attitude and two different way of living, and also making effort. That is the difference between samsara and Buddha way or nirvana. And we have the same difficulties actually. As Uchimura Rōshi said, working Tenzo at Antaiji was very lot of work, hard work. But within that hard work, if we have this attitude, that means not only for my satisfaction, then we can find a joy. That is basically what Uchimura Rōshi said about joyful mind. Next time, I'm going to return to opening the hand of thought and continue the paragraph. That is almost, we are almost end of the chapter 7. And before I retire from the position of abbot of Sanshinji, I wish to finish the section or chapter 8. That is a completion of my talk on this text, opening the hand of thought. That is my plan, or my vow, but no one knows. I could live 2 more years. So even if I cannot do it, then it's fine. I have a joy that I continue to work in that way on this material. I studied since I was very young, and I have been studying and practicing last 50 years. Still, this is meaningful to me. That is joyful mind for now to me. Well, this is what I have to say this morning. Is there any question or comment?
I have a question, Hojo-san, if you can hear
Okay.
me. So in the translation of the Tenzo Kyokun that you read, there was a line, give me just a second here to find it. Sorry, I had it marked, but I think I lost it. Hold on just a second. Well, it was basically the one, the line where he says that, we should practice with all of our lives, past, present, and future in the present. And it reminded me of the idea that Chigi had, about Ichinen Sanzen, that idea. Is there a relationship between those two concepts? And also, what did Dogen think of that teaching of Chigi?
Tendachi's teaching is a foundation of Tendai practice. And Dogen was ordained and became a monk within Tendai tradition. So Tendaichi's teaching is very important. That was what Dogen Zenji studied when he was a young novice. So, and even later, after he became a Zen master, he respected Tendaichi very much. But I'm not sure if Ichinen Sanzen is something to do with what he's saying here. Ichinen Sanzen Ichi Nen San Zen. Ichinen means one thought. Each is one, and nen is thinking, one thought. So whatever thought we have here and now has a connection with 3,000 things. 3,000 things means everything. Within not only 6, but 10 realms. 10 realms means 6 realms of samsara and 4 more realms. Those are what? Shravaka, Pratika, Buddha, Bodhisattva, and Buddhahood. Those are called 10 realms. And 10, each of 10 realms are interconnected with other 10 realms. That made what? 100? Anyway, that is the way this number 3,000 came. That means everything. So he said, what he's saying, one thinking, whatever thinking, whether enlightened or deluded, has connection with all those, all peoples and all beings' way of life. But here he's talking about a practice, not thinking, not one thought, but one action. So it's kind of different, but basically what he's saying, our action as a tenzo in a kitchen has a connection with entire past and entire future and all beings. So in that sense, Chi's teaching and what Dogen is saying here is, I think, everything is connected.
Thank you. Did Dogen ever comment on Ichinen Sanzen, like that idea? Did he criticize it? Did he like it? Or did he not say anything?
As far as I remember, he didn't mention. He didn't criticize and he didn't think that is true. But his way, the pattern of his thinking is not so different, that no matter how small we are, what we think, what we do are connected with entire world or entire network of interdependent origination. That basic way of thinking, I think, is common with Tendais. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Any other question or comment?
Hojo-san, good morning. This is Misaki.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It was very wonderful to hear your Dharma talk on this book once again. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And on the subject we have talked about, actually what's on the whiteboard right now, we kind of live in a society where everybody's have this self-centered, one-directional, goal-orientated lifestyle, and you have introduced this other ways to live as a bodhisattva, to look at this whole world as Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Does it cause any friction, or how does those two things kind of come together in actual, when it seems like it's kind of a conflicting idea or concept or lifestyle?
Well, those are different and in a sense contrary or conflict each other. But because of that, I think this teaching is really meaningful. That means we have to make effort how we can live with this attitude within the human world where everyone, or not everyone, but many people think me first, or America first, or Japan first, or China first, or very kind of a self-centered and egocentric way of life is really common. But I think people start to realize that way of life, that condition of society is not healthy. And
that's right now.
Yeah, it's really not healthy. So, if we have a life force, healthy life force, I think many people feel this is not right. So we have to make change. And this teaching by Buddha or Buddhist traditions is one of the kind of perspective we can see how we can make change. So I think Buddhist teaching and Buddhist practice is really meaningful, especially in this situation of human world. But it's really difficult even to live with this attitude within this very competitive society. And yet, because of that, this is meaningful. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does. And I'll take it to my...
So if this teaching can make sense and can be the energy to make change, even a little change, it's depending upon what we do. So our practice as a Buddha's student or a bodhisattva is really important now. Okay?
Thank you. I'll keep trying.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have a question this morning? I think I saw some hands up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sawyer has his hand up. I think Sawyer has a question before we go.
Oh.
There's still time. I'm wondering about these two phrases, hikyo kisho and kishin. So the final refuge as the three treasures and joyful mind. Is the ki in there in the Japanese? Is that the same
No,
word
different.
in both?
In Hikkyo Kisho, ki, this Chinese character means to return. So three treasures is the place we finally or ultimately return. And ki in kishin is joy or delight. So these are two different words.
Okay.
But what Uchamuro, not Uchamuro, but Dogen is saying is by returning to fear we need to return, we can find a joy. Okay?
That was the connection I was making regardless.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else this morning?
Okay.
Okay.